Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to take an in-depth look at the life and career of Ronnie Claire Edwards, who played Corabeth Walton Godsey. Ronnie Claire was born February 9th in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and according to the Encyclopedia of Oklahoma History and Culture, her father was a lawyer and country attorney in Oklahoma City, and her mother was a teacher and a writer. At age 15, she left home to travel with a carnival around Oklahoma. She became the assistant of great Shoshone Mahaffey, billed as half American Indian, half Irish knife thrower extraordinaire. Strapped to a spinning wheel, she had many exciting moments before her allergies to Oklahoma's ragweed caused sneezing and ended her job as a moving target. 2 years later, Edwards performed melodrama as an amateur in an opera house and the adjoining Sluice Saloon in a Montana mining camp. And then other sources share that her work in theater, these highlights from the Cleveland Playhouse, Blanche in A Streetcar Named Desire, Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, Annie Sullivan in The Miracle Worker. At Princeton McCarter Theater, she played Lady Macbeth in Macbeth, and then she did a host of other stock productions, including touring in Driving Miss Daisy. From the time she was a young girl, she studied dance for many years, including ballet and tap, which would come in handy then as Corabeth, when Corabeth not only taught Amy and Elizabeth tap dancing for a little recital thing for like a patriotic dance, but also when she opened her ballet school, which was not exactly successful, but was certainly something that Ronnie Claire would have been qualified to show that skill level to have been able to do that. In the book Goodnight, John Boy, I took a look at what the episode The Matchmakers, which was the episode that introduced the character of Corabeth Walton Godsey. And this is what Ronnie Claire had to say about that. When I was given the role of Corabeth Godsey, I realized with my first show that I had been given a gift. Every actor wants a role where the person undergoes change and growth. Corabeth had many facets. She was often difficult and the audience couldn't bear her, and then she would redeem herself and the audience would be touched by her. This was due to the insightful and beautiful writing. I believe it was the best written role on the show. So that's how Ronnie Claire felt about playing Corabeth. Then John McGreevy, who wrote the episode The Matchmakers, had this to say. It was always especially rewarding to feel that with an episode, I had made some worthwhile and lasting contribution to the Waltons. The addition of Verdi Grant in The Scholar was one such show. The Matchmakers was another because it introduced Corabeth, who was to become, with many misgivings before and after the ceremony, Mrs. Ike Godsey. Corabeth, marvelously interpreted by Ronnie Claire Edwards, added a new dimension of comedy to the series. I was especially pleased a few years ago to attend a screening of The Matchmakers in a fairly large auditorium at the Los Angeles County Museum. There was continuous laughter. And then also Earl Hamner shared this. Ronnie Claire Edwards gave such interest and depth to the character of Corabeth that we asked her to stay as a permanent member of the cast, and the series was much the richer for her presence. To acting, Ronnie Claire has now added the chores of a producer and writer. Her latest book, The Knife Thrower's Assistant, is a hilarious read. So those are what Ronnie Claire had to say about it, and also John McGreevy and Earl Hamner. Although I have not yet had a chance to read The Knife Thrower's Assistant, it's on order, and I will get it at some point and look forward to reading it. But I did have a chance to read Mr. Godsey Asked Me to Marry Him, and I said yes, exit sobbing. So in this book, Ronnie Claire talks about many things relative to her life, her career playing Corabeth, and it has a beautiful foreword that Earl Hamner wrote. It's basically a series of vignettes, and it kind of jumps all over the place. And what I discovered, even knowing Ronnie Claire in real life, was how much she was like the character Corabeth in many ways, that she was just always larger than life and had fantastic stories and experiences and led quite an adventurous life and enjoyed living an adventurous life. She had a wicked sense of humor and loved to laugh. And she could be just so, her humor sometimes came from being overtaxed as Corabeth would. So she utilized that sense of how to get humor in moments, both in her real life, and that translated beautifully onto the screen. She talks about people all over the world saying how much they hate her and her character of Corabeth. So I just thought I'd share some of the things that she said. Poor Corabeth seemed universally disliked, while I, Ronnie Claire Edwards, the actress who played her, took these remarks as a compliment. It meant I had done my job well. I had created a character that received an emotional response from audiences the world over. So I thought that was very insightful of her to be able to recognize that I hate you meant people believed that character that she had created. So I've heard that from other actresses or actors who've played sort of villains on shows. She also talks about Earl Hamner. Earl Hamner has a sensitive demeanor that makes one feel they don't want to hurt or disappoint him. How he maintains this in the tough world of TV is a mystery and a miracle. In creating the Waltons, he had his hand on the pulse, not just in America, but the world. Originally, it was a hard sell. The network powers that be could not grasp its enormous potential. They didn't understand what Earl Hamner was expressing in his writing. When the Waltons became a huge success, winning numerous Emmys, the network people remained puzzled. The only reason for their blindness that I can comprehend is that Earl was writing about family loyalty and endurance during hard times, values that were unknown to them. Personally, he secured my future, gifting me with Corabeth. I have always referred to him as Mr. Earl Hamner, from whom all blessings flow. Now about Mr. Godsey. Joe Conley was perfect for the part of Ike Godsey, the storekeeper. He never made a false step. He couldn't. He was dead on in every scene. The writers could throw any situation at him, and he played it with his own Mr. Godsey stamp. I used to watch him on the sly, trying to ascertain his process. There seemed to be none. He'd goof around during rehearsal, which bothered me because I was not a quick study and needed all the rehearsal I could get. When it came time to film, he effortlessly fell into character. It drove me crazy. It was a case of a person knowing the character in his bones. I'm convinced with Joe it was all instinct. If Olivia and John had chemistry, so did Corabeth and Ike Godsey. Not the same kind, but something clicked between Joe and me. From our very first scene, we could play off of one another. It was a rare and rewarding acting experience. There is no explaining it. It just was. There were days when we drove each other mad, just as Ike and Corabeth did, but when we stepped onto the set and into those characters, we came together. Again, the producers were lucky, but so were we. She shared a piece of behind-the-scenes information about doing the episode The Pearls, where she played both herself and her other counterpart, Orma Lee. And she said, every episode I was in, I always thought it was my favorite until I did the next episode. They wrote wonderful scripts for me. My favorite was a script written by Claire Whitaker. Claire is as beautiful as any movie star. She conceived Orma Lee, Corabeth's sister. I got to overdress and wear a blonde wig. A double was hired for the scenes where the sisters talked to each other. Claire let me write Orma Lee's speech in the car. The episode was fun for the whole cast. She mentioned early on, about 3 days into the filming, that one of the assistant directors came to her and said that they saw the dailies yesterday. Now, dailies are the prints of what was shot the day before, so they can make sure that they got everything they needed, that there wasn't any trouble with the film, that there isn't anything they have to reshoot because the film was damaged, things like that. So she was horrified when he said that, and then all of a sudden she saw the producers walking towards her. She said, I had a sinking feeling of humiliation because walking across the lot came the producers, the director, and the writers. They were heading straight for me, and they were not smiling. I suppressed the urge to run. When they encircled me, I knew they had come to dismiss me. I feared I would faint. Suddenly, I felt someone's arms around me, and these people all seemed to be talking at once. When I burst into tears, I'm sure they assumed it was because I was so overjoyed to hear all of their compliments. Little did they know my tears were relief at not being fired. And she had this final thing to say about the writing on the Waltons and the enduring quality of it. People embraced the Waltons' characters because they conveyed goodness and family loyalty, something the fans recognized and could aspire to. They may not have always conquered but much is to be said for the trying. Tennyson said it best. A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? The continual bombardment of today's material numbs the mind, desensitizes the spirit, and erodes the soul. To see people struggle to survive hard times against adversity is also the American dream, which guides and strengthens us. The fact that people seek and want to be uplifted is proof of why the Waltons endures today as popular as ever. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's virtually impossible to find. I found a used copy and frankly still paid a lot for it, but I feel like I really got to know Ronnie Claire, and it wasn't always clear. Some of the sentimental and beautiful things that she said in this book were not always things that she would say in a regular conversation with you. So I felt like I got a little bit of a peek into her through this book. So I really appreciated that, and the beautiful things that she had to say about the show and Earl and being a part of it. I was really very touching. She did 107 episodes as Corabeth Godsey from season 3 through season 9, and she did all 6 of the reunion movies. Some of my favorites with her were The Tailspin, where Jim Bob changes her tire and they have that beautiful scene together. The Pearls, which I haven't seen in ages, but look forward to watching again now that I have been revisiting Corabeth and Ronnie Claire. And, just cute things like The Lost Sheep with Jonathan Frakes, some of that was very sweet. Or moments of her, like in The Calling, when she's outside the church and Olivia kind of puts her in her place about overstepping in regard to Mary Frances. There's so many standout moments for her as Corabeth. Beyond the Waltons, she did on TV 13 episodes of Boone as Aunt Dolly. That was also a series created by Earl Hamner. She did 13 episodes of the series Sarah as Helen Newcomb, and that starred Gina Davis, Alfre Woodard, Bill Mayer, Bronson Pinchot, and Matthew Lawrence. She did episodes of Dallas, Falcon Crest Dynasty, Murder, She Wrote, Designing Women. She did 2 episodes of The Torkelsons. She did 4 episodes, Star Trek, The Next Generation, and was in the movie The Deadpool in 8 seconds. She chose to step away from Hollywood because she just didn't find, beyond the Waltons and a few other things, she didn't find the characters satisfying to play. And some of the work experiences, according to her book, she did not find enjoyable either. So she went back to theater and eventually moved back to Texas. She wrote a number of plays. She wrote a one-woman show, The Knife Thrower's Assistant, Memoirs of a Human Target, which was, I don't know if the play came first or the book came first, but there are copies of both those. The plays Wedding Bells and The Mystery of Ms. Arnett, both were published by Samuel French, Inc. She wrote musicals, Idols of the King, which was a tribute to Elvis Presley's career, legacy, and his most passionate fans, and The Last of the Honky Tonk Angels. And then she wrote the books, The Knife Thrower's Assistant, Memoirs of a Human Target, and, of course, Mr. Godsey asked me to marry him, and I said yes. Ronnie Claire Edwards died June 14, 2016 in Dallas, Texas. She was 83. And in her time in Texas, the last, when she moved there, she took an old church, and I found some pictures of it in an article. She converted this church into her home, and she said she wanted to maintain the integrity of the space as much as possible, but to let it be what it was, but to make it comfortable to live in. So she continued to live her life right up until the end in just something that could be a TV movie or a character. And yet, so she was just the best character in her own life, and so full of joy and energy and humor. And it was an absolute pleasure to know her. Thank you for joining me for this segment about Ronnie Claire Edwards. If you have enjoyed this or you enjoy the segments I do, please do hit like and subscribe. And I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons. Thanks for watching.